Yeah, you got it.
All right, welcome everybody. We're here for a workshop on chapter 23, City Council Article 3, Rules of Decorum. So let's call this meeting to order. All right, City Manager.
So this is just continuation of the discussion of chapter 23. Excuse me. We've already gone over all of it except for the last section, which is the rules of decorum, 23-15. We can go line by line like we have been doing.
Did
And
you
have
do the
discussion.
order of business, the 12? Did I miss that?
Yeah.
We had a discussion item, I think you were on it.
Okay, all right. But nobody did anything big. matter.
We did make changes based on things that we would like to see moving forward, including a section that allows for people to table, move, change
Okay.
order of business,
Okay.
add. We presented that to council sooner than later so that we could ensure that our new civic clerk software met the same.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically that proposed one that we had in.
Okay, all right. Okay. Decorum, which I know everything about.
The rules of decorum, section A, by council members, while the council is in session, the members must preserve order and decorum, and a member shall neither be.
You want me to read this?
You,
God
what?
bless you. Do
I
you
don't-
do you want us to take turns reading?
Sure.
A.
By conversation or otherwise, delay or interpret the proceedings or the peace of the council, nor disturb any member while speaking, or refuse to obey the orders of the council or its presiding officer, except as otherwise herein provided.
That's great. Not that I ever,
Yeah.
I'm just not that type of person. I mean, and I never did it, but a couple of times. I never intentionally
Right.
tried to step on anybody. Yeah, I know I did. And I knew when I did it and I meant to, but that's okay. We've had that discussion.
Good tea today, Gio.
Oh, good. I'm so happy.
No change.
Section B, by attendees, any person making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks, or who shall become boisterous while addressing the council shall be forthwith by the presiding officer subject to loss of speaking privileges unless permission to continue be granted by a majority vote of the council. Subsection 1, reactions from the audience following the recognition and rewarding of citizens and special guests is considered appropriate and encouraged. Disruptive verbal and nonverbal reactions from the audience during staff presentations to the council and during debate between council persons are inappropriate and not permitted. The presiding officer will ensure that the decorum of the meeting is maintained and is appropriate. Item 2, it is not the intention of the city council to provide a public forum for the demeaning of any individual or group. Neither is it the intention of the city council to allow a member or members of the public to insult the honesty and or integrity of the city council as a body. The proceedings of the city council or any member of or members of the city council individually or collectively. The mayor and council will endeavor to ensure that meetings are conducted in a courteous manner and in an atmosphere free of defamation, intimidation, personal affronts, profanity, and threats of violence. 3, members of the public shall not engage in any of the following in the meeting room during a city council meeting: shouting, unruly behavior, distracting side conversations, or speaking out when another person is talking, defamation, intimidation, personal affronts, profanity, or threats of violence, use of phones, pagers, radios, computers, or other electronic equipment, voicing, hissing, foot stomping, ripping of paper, parading, signing, or other similar behavior that impedes or disrupts the orderly conduct of the meeting.
I have seen every one of those in the past 3 years.
4, members of the public shall not attempt to provide direction regarding rules of procedure, order of business, or otherwise direct the city council on how to properly conduct a meeting. The mayor and the city council are the formal authority to determine what is or is not in order, out of order, or the correct way to conduct business of the city. The mayor, any city council member, the city manager, and the city secretary are the only individuals permitted to call a point of order, to make recommendations as to how a meeting will be conducted. Outbursts and shouts to direct the meeting are unacceptable and will not be tolerated. 5, no offensive, vulgar, or distracting place cards, banner signs, or apparel shall be permitted to be erected or displayed by persons in attendance in city council chambers or in any other room in which the city council is holding a meeting. Exhibits, displays, and visual aids used in connection with presentations to the city council are permitted.
Question, Megan. The number 3C, use of phones, pagers, radios, computers, or other electronic equipment.
So that is one of the ones that needs to be changed.
It needs to be updated to provide for the exception of state law. Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
section 551.
Except is permitted by state law.
Yeah, so that needs to be just says exactly that. You guys have used computers. And so you're violating your own.
Yeah, but that's,
Decorum.
that right there is talking about,
Attendees.
members of the public shall
Yeah.
not.
I think that it needs to be open for the members of the public as well.
Remember, the only reason is because we had people sitting, typing, making a lot of.
Yeah, I don't think we should allow that.
But we're forcing people to start utilizing our, not forcing, but we're encouraging people to utilize our website. We're also trying not to print out as many because our packets are larger. So if someone comes to the meeting and wants to go through the packet to have it, you're not allowing it.
That's what I was kind of wondering, because even before being on council, I would have the agenda on here just so I could scroll through it or.
Cause you would be
control F.
doing the same thing if you guys were typing. Gio's sitting there typing as well.
And then is that a member of the public, the media table, or any of the other, like say the paper and stuff? Are they-
That would be immediate, there would be attendees.
Cause she had a computer last night.
Yeah, and so we need to just follow the state.
But I think
law.
that's the exception 551 point, whatever it is.
Yeah,
That's that falls under that exception.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, it says that they can record. Like any member of the public can record and.
Oh, we've had that too.
Yes, I
I mean,
think,
we can take it out completely.
I think we should allow the
What y'all want to
computers.
do.
When would it be a problem? Like when someone's
Or
filming?
when they
us?
bring a printer and start printing crap.
Or if they're like disrupting, the meeting, you know, like,
You're on back there.
yeah,
Mm,
or something.
But then that's just disruptive behavior and that's just a point of order and calling it out.
Was that the other gentleman that was filming us that one time?
But
Or-
that's allowed by state law.
The
So
551
trumps
that's
that
it.
ordinance.
That's what she reads on that first page. Every
Yeah.
time on your,
I think the
Agenda.
use of
Yeah.
phones is no phone call. Can't take a phone call in the middle of the meeting.
um,
But I do think we need to allow for the computers.
How about use of phones, pagers, radios, computers, or other electronic equipment except for the use of viewing packet materials? Or,
well, then you're gonna police what they're looking at?
no, but,
I mean, Hadley texts me
basically,
at one meeting.
of course,
What are
we
you
couldn't,
doing, Mom? I was like,
of course, we couldn't actually look, but
I know.
that way.
It wouldn't
it's-
hurt to
that
say
way
it,
it is
yeah.
Being on the phone.
Or in a
Not
manner that
making
doesn't,
appointments.
maybe in a manner that doesn't interrupt meetings?
I think you should say in a manner that doesn't interrupt.
Okay, so use of phones, pagers,
It
radios.
doesn't interrupt or disrupt.
Or other equipment,
Disrupt.
Right.
and then what's the language? Just basically in a manner that does not interrupt the meeting,
Right,
Disrupt.
disrupt.
We like to
Man.
disrupt.
that does not disrupt the meeting, right?
Mhm.
Sounds
Oh, wait,
great.
wait.
Hello, Miss Lori.
You agree, Megan?
Thank you for being here.
Well, I mean, we're just encouraging more and more to go on our website and
Well,
those
and-
packets are huge and
I know.
Yeah.
I don't wanna
saves us
print
money.
them out.
So except, because it still doesn't make sense, because it says members of the public shall not engage in any of the following in the meeting room during city council. So
Use of phones, pages, radios, and
except,
other electronic equipment.
is allowed, except
okay,
is allowed in a manner that does not disturb the meeting.
In a manner non-disruptive to the meeting?
Except by state law, blah, 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 or computers that are not disruptive.
I know, I do too.
um,
Are you having trouble hearing?
Or coffee, or coffee makers.
You know, I think we need to go ahead and just pull that out altogether. C needs to become number 4. And then number 4 comes 5 and then 6. That needs to be separated out completely.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Otherwise. it's
So we
just
can
like-
elaborate on.
Towards five,
C
so
and
we're
number
going to
four.
get rid of
Six.
D completely,
yes. So D is C.
and then we'll add, for 4.
Will be
we'll
the,
put
where we talk about it not
Members of the
disrupting.
public
May.
may utilize.
Utilize electronic equipment in a manner that does not.
Disrupt
The meeting.
the meeting.
And that will list the 557 or whatever else in there where it can be used.
We can add that as part of it.
I
Maybe
think
we should put in there no phone calls,
Okay,
because you might have somebody back there trying to whisper, but it's gonna disrupt those around them.
Or have
phone
a,
calls are
have a
other.
earpiece. How about that?
Yeah.
phone
But if
calls
they're
are
not
other
talking and they
disruptive
just have the
behavior.
earpiece on, it doesn't violate.
Well,
Phone
yeah, but we
calls-
wouldn't even know they were on a phone call
Yeah,
at
it's
that
not
point.
disrupt-
Phone
Just no
calls
phone call.
or other disruptive behavior will not be permitted.
Yes, that's good.
You want me to read, Megan?
Hmm?
You want me to read?
No.
I mean, I don't mind. I just thought if you get sick of it. I mean,
I didn't know if I was gonna sneeze or cough. I was like. I'm still second round of whatever this is.
I started Claritin, even though Claritin D, I can't take because of my blood pressure. Claritin, I didn't know I could take, but I can. Yep, look,
You can breathe. You can
oh
breathe.
my gosh.
when was the last time anyone was removed from a meeting?
I've never had to.
Mike Davison probably,
About 5+
when
years
he
ago?
was on council. So that would have been.
Oh, he was
when-
removed when he was.
No,
on
he
council.
wasn't removed, but during those.
Who was it?
It was, I think Oscar Cobos was actually removed.
Well, that didn't hurt my feelings one bit at all.
I can't be for sure. It's when I first started, because the meetings would go to like 11 o'clock at night. they'd be
Well, I'll tell you,
screaming
when
and yelling.
when we first started, Andy, you would have stopped what was happening. And Andy didn't.
Yeah.
He just had to go on, 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 on. That's good.
Oh,
That's
great.
fine. We were all on TV.
Did anyone have any other questions on the
No,
rest
I'm
of
good.
it? Or is it just
But no
the,
change.
All right, so.
12 and 10.
Yep, the rest sounded good. You agree?
Yes.
Okay.
the next section is 23-16, enforcement of decorum, section A. Disturbances, transgressions of the rules or disorderly conduct in the council chamber may cause the transgressor to be removed from the meeting. The presiding officer of the meeting shall exercise control over persons who disrupt the meeting in the following ascending order of action. 1, call the person to order, advising the person of the infraction. 2, advise the person that the infraction must cease immediately or the person will be ordered to leave the meeting. 3, order the person to leave the meeting. If the offending person is a member of council, the proceeding officer shall call for a vote on the expulsion of that member from the meeting, and such vote requires a majority for adoption. 4, a police officer may remove an individual or individuals for disrupting the meeting as authorized, and we probably need to spell out the VTCA, Penal Code 4205.
Yeah, I appreciate you spelling out stuff. I think we need to go, I think number 2 just needs to be scratched out. When they're called to order and we advise them of the infraction and tell them they need to stop immediately. And if they do it again, they're out. Period. This isn't pre-K.
So call the person to order, advising that person of the
And
infraction.
then to order the person to leave the meeting.
Yes, if they don't stop then, bye.
Okay, so just take 2 out completely.
And
Yeah.
after they've done this, then they can come back in 2 weeks
Mhm.
and do it again.
You can't ban them.
From a public meeting. The number 3 there, if the offending person is a member of council, the providing officer shall call for a vote and it requires a majority for adoption. So I guess on that, if we're 5 council members, 1 leaves and the vote's 2-2, who does it fall to?
The mayor would break the
Mayor
tie
breaks the
or.
tie,
or
unless it's
Mayor Pro
her.
Tem.
I start going rogue.
See, we gotta think of all the scenarios.
Brain goes crazy. Headline, mayor. Needs a meeting.
Sending it to KOSA.
And then the last subsection B, the chief of police or such member or members of the police department, as he may, and it needs to say he or she,
Yeah,
Yeah, it really does.
or they may designate,
yeah.
shall be sergeant at arms of the council meetings. He or she shall carry out all orders and instructions given by the presiding officer for the purpose of maintaining order and decorum at the council meeting. Upon instructions of the presiding officer, unless otherwise directed by a majority vote of the council, it shall be the duty of the designated sergeants at arms to remove any person who violates the order and decorum of the meeting. And I would take the he, she, and I would just put they.
Okay.
I did that. Well, I just, okay.
Yeah.
Y'all good with that?
So,
Yeah,
police department as they may designate, they shall carry out the orders.
right.
Section 23-17, audience participation. At meetings of the city council, the business of the city is conducted between the members of the city council and by those members of the staff, elected officials, department heads, consultants, experts, and or members of the public requested to be present and participate. While the public is invited and encouraged to attend all meetings of the city council, excluding executive sessions, and to ensure that meetings of the city council are conducted in a way that allows the business of the city to be effectively conducted, the public's participation therein is to be governed by the following. 1, audience participation is limited to the role of observer except for during the public comment portion or public hearing portion of the meeting. 2, members of the public in attendance at any regular, special, emergency, and or workshop meeting of the city council shall conduct themselves with proper respect and decorum in speaking to and or addressing the city council, in participating in public discussions before the city council, and in all actions in the presence of the city council. Members of the public speaking during comment periods are invited to speak shall remain behind the podium while speaking. Attendees must be physically present at a meeting to address the city council. Comments by proxy are not allowed. 3, city council members shall not have discussions during the public comment and public hearing portions of the agenda, nor take any action thereon other than to refer the item to city staff for research and possible future action. 4, it is in the intention of the city council to provide open access to the residents and affected persons of the city to address the city council and express themselves on issues under consideration by the city council. In accordance with such, members of the public in attendance at city council meetings must be respectful of individuals making public comments before, during, and after such comments are made. 5, persons may present printed material to be included in the council agenda packets 1 week prior to a meeting. Persons may present printed material to the city secretary to distribute to the city council during a meeting subject to the same deadline.
I have an edit on that.
Yeah,
by the
big
way.
time. We have edit that one, and then since this is the end of the page for me.
So I already have it written up as well.
Instead of 1 week, what is it?
Well, let's start
So
at the
I
beginning.
put-
Start at the beginning. So for number 1, attendance participation is limited to the role of observer except for during public comment portion or public hearing portion of the meeting. I think we need to hold on. My notes are a little backwards.
Because we were allowing people to speak during discussions.
Well,
so
there,
we
that's
did-
on the next part. Addressing the city council. So that's where it needed to be, I have clarify, I'm just trying to figure out what we're trying to clarify. To clarify that they may choose to speak during public comments. By, like, actually provide the guidance to be able to speak during a public comment. Because it's not the same as a public hearing. For a public hearing, you don't have to fill out the form, you don't have. to-
Right.
So for clarification on that one, they're observers except during those 2 periods. I was thinking that it should be like 1 and then A, public comment. And kind of explain what the public comment section is,
With the 3 minutes.
and B, public hearing,
With also the 3 minutes.
but they don't have to fill out the card.
Comment card.
So they're only allowed to speak during public comment if they fill out the card.
Right,
But we're currently already instilled the practice that they can speak during the public comment or during the item on the agenda.
Oh, the action or discussion item.
Yeah, so we just need to clarify that a little bit more.
Because they only get 3 total minutes
Right.
between public comment and anything.
right. They have to pick if they're gonna do public comment or if they're gonna do it
We'll
during.
add 1 section.
Discussion or-
It would be too hard for them to split up 3 minutes. throughout
Yeah,
3 different
it'd be
items.
too hard for us to monitor that.
Well, and like I said, just put clarify. For me, it was more, we already have the practice in place that if I want to speak during the action item, I can speak during the action item. But we don't really clarify it too much in our rules of decorum, but that first part, because we're giving them the options, we need to clarify it, that's all.
That it is an
How
option.
about for this part, audience participation is limited to the role of observers except for during the public comment or designated portion of the agenda or something to that effect where it kind of just leaves it open and then it's clarified in the next section.
And that's fine, cause I was, like I said, I was just thinking that except, and then you had your A, B, and C, or like you
Okay,
had
we can do that too.
like where they could basically speak.
Right.
And then like for public comment, they'd have to fill out the public comment
Yes, we need to
card.
have that written in there.
How about audience participation is limited to the role of observers except for
And then
the,
colon,
the commenter's choice of either, and then A, public comment, B,
public hearing, C, action item, or designated agenda item. At time
Does that make
designated
sense to you?
agenda item.
Quick question on the 3 minutes. So previous to the changes in the order of business, they would have 3 minutes, but would all have to be during public comment.
Mhm.
So that if they had wanted to talk a little bit about a
Now tell them
discussion
previous
item,
to that what was happening. When I first got on, everybody just talked when they want. Well, I want to say that, you know,
So
you could sit in here all night listening to them argue.
there's still the ability, the mayor has the ability, or the chairperson has the ability to call someone up. So even if they don't fill out a public comment card, there was still, and this is where it was abused, is there wasn't someone saying, okay, enough, you're done.
Right.
They were just letting anyone come up and speak. So
Repeatedly.
we
Yeah.
tightened it because it did become just a free.
and you
for all.
tightened it to the one where it's 3 minutes during public comment. But now if somebody comes in and says, well, I want to talk about,
During that action item.
let's just say an action item and a discussion item, they would need to do that during public comment. Otherwise, they're splitting up time 1.5
Right.
minutes on a discussion item and 1.5 on an action item.
Yeah, we're not splitting up time.
Yeah.
So they would have to do their public comments during the public comment.
We
So I
weren't
think-
letting them have the option to speak during.
That's why I kind of wish we wouldn't have done that. Like, it just seems so much simpler to, if we would have just said, if you want to speak during the public, speak during public comment. I mean, we're adults, we can listen to things long enough to know that.
Well, I think the other side of the argument, because we have more structure in place and there's a little bit more control. I think allowing them to speak under an information discussion item, under an action item, allows you to really have a conversation with the residents who it possibly could be affecting. Cause they're gonna come up and they're gonna complain, or they're gonna voice their opinion during the public comment, but you can't interact, you can't. say
Right, we had to be
anything.
quiet, remember?
So even though you're listening and you're taking it, you guys have,
We can't ask them questions.
you have done it time after time after time. Or when someone comes up during an action, you get more information because you ask them, how does this affect you? What are you thinking? Because sometimes people don't articulate. I have a hard time articulating, especially when I can't breathe. And for them, you having that conversation helps.
Then,
Well, in the above previous section, it said that council can't respond back to them during public comment. So regardless if
Right, we
the
can't.
public comment is in the public comments or at the discussion item, let's say, for example, or action item, the council still can't have the conversation until after there's a motion, a second on the table, and then they have a discussion. Then the presiding officer can contact them up. That's how I interpret it. Unless.
That's
we
when they need to
change-
get called back. That's
unless
when
we
we're in
change the
discussion.
fact That council can't respond, which is not advisable. That's a very.
I think public
Okay.
comment needs to be public comment and that's it. It's just a comment. I'm
Let's
just
think of this
telling
as
you.
kind of crazy. Why do we even have public comments? Are
We
they
have to.
required by state?
Yeah, we have to.
Because I mean, that section's stupid if they could just do their 3 minutes during the discussion item or the,
Well, remember
action item.
that conference that I went to that in TML, I presented to you all.
You gave
about
us
it.
a something.
He recommended, yeah, I gave you a whole.
I know you did. I
Yeah.
read it.
He recommended to only accept public comments at one point on the agenda, because otherwise it sets a precedent. People are confused. They're thinking, oh, they can just talk whenever they want. They can get up and talk when they want. He was like, just keep it simple, keep it to where you only have the one section. Open it officially and close it officially, so it's clear, but it's against the rules to talk at any other points. And it was about conducting efficient meetings.
so if we had the public comments and then we had questions or we wanted more information from the person, when we get to the discussion item or the
Call 'em
action item, then we call them up.
Mm.
So maybe we shouldn't allow them to speak unless we call them up.
But you've already put the practice in place. So you've already violated the ordinance by splitting it up to begin with. I wouldn't I mean, that was the whole direction you guys were going, was to give them.
But this is their chance to set.
I know,
what they
this
want
is,
to
it.
do.
Yeah, why not?
One thing I said. about
Otherwise,
all
we'll
of
just
this,
keep things the same forever.
They can get a hold of every one of us
Yeah,
and let me be your voice. That's why they elected me. That's why they elected him. We're the voice. Now, I don't mind hearing them again, and I don't blame them. Y'all may see me next year, but I'm just telling you, we're the voices. That's what that's why they elect us. If not, why are we up here?
But the thing is, sorry,
no, it's a
No,
workshop.
that's fine.
when you vote, maybe someone didn't vote for you. Maybe they don't think that
Oh, that's true.
you know, see things straight. You have to give that option.
Well, but I agree,
You guys have been.
but they were coming
preaching-
up all the
Well,
time.
but we've already
We've done away with that.
limited that.
I know, and it's great.
And I don't foresee us going back that direction, but you guys have all been very vocal about being transparent and engaging and getting them to come to the meetings. Why am I gonna come to a meeting and sit
You
here
can't
and you're
talk.
not gonna let me participate?
I agree with what the mayor said, that would make a lot of sense if the public comment was simple and easy public comment. And then when we opened it up from motion and second to discussion, and the mayor says, if, you know, you spoke during public comment, if you would like to have an exchange, we can have an exchange.
Or any council member. I think that's the way it should be done.
So
And just because now's our time to change it.
But-
Yeah,
I'd like to point out that just like systematically, it's when I look at the card, like it's very rushed. It's like, I'm like, okay, trying to look and I miss sometimes already.
when
They
they,
had selected the actual item and on top of it, I have to announce the section or what they're commenting on and sometimes they don't fill it out right. So maybe looking at changing the whole process is good, but at the same time, it's more systematically, it's harder. You know what I mean? Cause then you have to, and then you have to remember when you get to each item, is there any public comments? Are you gonna ask at each item? Like, you know, it really starts.
no,
in my
no,
opinion,
I don't think that's what we're saying.
No, and I get,
Yes,
saying
agree.
about,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
agreeing with y'all,
Okay,
but,
okay.
for me, it's just the efficiency and then like prolonging and it's just inefficient in my opinion.
Well, and I think then it's Mr. Stevens that had mentioned to kind of push this because he had people that were asking, you know, for the time to speak during those action or discussion items. And he said multiple times that we get more from a two-way exchange, like you just said, as opposed to just a one-way exchange from that. And as opposed to making it a more complex process, I kind of like what the mayor is saying there too, where if you came to a, you know, public comment, you said, I have strong feelings about action item 2 and action item 4 that I would like to discuss. But then do you limit
And I
them at some-
request that you call me back up or whatever.
Then you could have that two-way exchange, but then do you limit that at 3 minutes too, or whatnot?
And plus your council member, so if one of your constituents came up and was speaking about an action item or discussion item that they felt passionate about, we have a notepad, surely you would write their name down, and we got to that item. It wouldn't just be the mayor, or is it just the mayor that can call somebody back up?
Well, any council member. can
Yeah, so
request
you-
it,
yeah.
Subject to the mayor.
Approval,
Saying
yes.
yes, and then remember, the council can.
Override,
automatically, yes,
yeah.
overrule.
Yeah, so you can say, I want to call
If
Miss
they'll
so-and-so.
come back up and talk to her, I'll,
Well, so
Well, no,
then-
it's limited.
Or why not
Yeah.
do a minute ahead of each item? I mean, I'm just saying, it makes it a little easier systematically at least. Every time you're.
especially if
used
they've
to
already
accepting
talked.
it.
Cause you know, I'm already trying to put that 3 and 6 minute
It's just.
time
that's
limit
a
in
long
place.
meeting.
I don't wanna give them, if you start doing that, you're gonna have people, I'm just warning you. That
Yeah,
will come on action item 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Well,
7,
so-
8, 9,
but the way
10.
you're saying
That's
it now
10
is
minutes.
I do my 3 minutes, but then I can get called up for action. The way we're currently trying to practice it is you get one or the other, you don't get both. But if I do my 3 minutes during public comments and I wanna further discuss during action, Darren could call me up there.
Well, and then.
And then it was supposed to be just 3 minutes, either at the public comment time period where there's no interaction or during the actual action.
Another thing that the presenter said, like you start getting into those types of things, you're gonna have to allow everybody who wants to talk all the time throughout the meeting, because if not, it looks like you're being.
But only if they fill
Right.
out the public comment.
And I get that, but it makes it confusing to the attendees because they might not know that, and they'll think that they can get up and they'll wanna start talking. Or let's say this, you know, you say somebody makes public comment, you invite them up during an action item, well, somebody else wants to come up. Then that starts, what, do they just raise their hand? Like, it makes it more confusing. If you have a designated spot, you open, you close it,
So then maybe we need 2 public comment spots.
Do you actually have people come into this?
Hell, yeah.
Sometimes,
The rules,
You would-
all of these rules were put in place for a reason.
yeah,
And it
you
was
wouldn't
to
believe the
increase-
Dollar General meeting.
Increase meeting efficiency and to put structure so everybody
we were
knows
killers.
exactly what to do.
Uh-huh.
I'm a killer,
Yeah.
I'm a murderer.
Which I would say, we had a
Yeah.
2-hour meeting last night that's very structured. So we have very structured meetings right now and they're still averaging probably 2 hours. I mean, maybe all this is put in there for that.
So we don't
reason.
sit here, and this is what Andy used to let them do. Well, do you want to talk? Oh, I want to talk now. And then they get back, oh, I have one more thing, and they'd come back, and, I just sit here, by the third time, I quit, number one, listening to them, because I was irritated at him, then I'd be irritated at them. And then when they do that, everybody out there is going, well, I could say so-and-so, well, I want to talk, okay, well, come up and talk.
Or how,
And they were forever, we were in here forever.
how-
And it meant nothing. If it had accomplished something, it would have been okay, but these are their opinions and
Which, yeah,
that's good and we're open and transparent, but I don't want to hear all of it. Call me at my
And-
house and I'll tell everybody.
that's what I was gonna say too, is I think maybe the meetings are built to be efficient and run quick, 2 hours. And if people have serious issues with the city, they should reach out to us in our own time because we're making the big bucks to be up here. I mean, I do get people that
You
email.
vote, call me. I talked to a lot of people who I know didn't vote for me. And I came up here or I'd call Megan. I would always start with calling Megan first. Megan, can you fix this? No. And I'd tell them, then come to the meeting, the gas stuff at the Carpenter Edition. Come to the meeting,
Yeah.
but have a spokesman. Don't all of you expect the 18 people to get up here and talk. It's not gonna
Right.
happen. Have a spokesman and they picked Brent and that worked out fairly well. Did we fix their problem? No, but they were able to voice their opinion. And that's what I would tell them. Come as a group and have one person give your comment. And he got to speak. Remember, we let him speak.
But it was also outside public comments.
remove the comment card. Make a public comment section ahead of
each action
each,
item?
like information and discussion, like one at the very beginning. One at information and discussion and one at action, and then allow the commenters, remove the card, like I said, they raise their hand or they just come up. They have maybe 1 or 2 minutes, and then at each section, they could make the comment ahead of that section. I mean, it systematically just makes it easier, is
Yeah.
what I'm.
Well, and that's definitely opening it up for more engagement as well. I like that idea.
Go over that once more slower for me.
So you have 3 public
Smart
comment
guy.
sections. Okay, so say,
In front of
mayor calls
discussion.
the meeting to order.
Okay.
Okay, public comments. And this is gonna be the first of 3 public comment sections. Each person can come up. you
For
raise
a
the comment
minute,
card,
because somebody might want to do all 3 of them.
Right, but see. A
I would
minute,
do 2 at each
2
one,
minutes.
2, 4, 6.
so 2 minutes, cause that'll go by quick, I think. They could do, public comments about any agenda item. And then have another section ahead of information and discussion. Do we have, okay, now this brings us to information and discussion. Do we have any public comments on the information and discussion items? And then, we can do a spiel, like each person will have 2 minutes, come up, state your name and, ward. Comments are limited to agenda active items only. It sounds like more complicated, but if we put in the structure, I think systematically it'll be easier, and then the presiding officer would be used to calling ahead of each section.
And why would anybody want to speak at the very beginning of the meeting? Why do we need that one? Why don't we just have it ahead of information discussion and ahead of
Because I
action?
don't wanna stay here till 7 o'clock when you get to that section of the agenda, so I'm gonna come up here at the very first of the meeting.
Yes.
And I'm gonna say, you're not doing what I want. and then we'll go
No, I'm 3 minutes over my limit here.
State law requires that we provide them an opportunity to make a public comment.
Well, we are.
Ahead of the action,
Oh.
any action being taken. So most cities have implemented the public comments period toward the beginning, because state law also allows us to put restrictions on how they're made, which allows you to put rules, like that's why we have the comment card and things of that nature.
But if we took away the comment card, that's easier. So there's no, I didn't know, I don't remember. You give them the 3 opportunities, because there are gonna be people who don't wanna sit here till the next item or that section.
What-
They just wanna get their comment out there so they can be heard and move on. But then if they really, you're gonna see them. We don't get huge influxes of public comments. But if I know, okay, I can make a comment right before the action items, because you've been having all of these information and discussion items that has taken 2 hours. You're not gonna remember what I said at 5:30. But if I can do it right before the action item and say, I really need you to consider how you vote on coloring dogs pink. I really want my dog pink and I want it to be a state law or whatever, something.
I mean, Dollar General is the perfect example when there was so much public comment on that. And like, I'd say give council a little credit. Anytime somebody's up there for a public comment, I'll usually write their name down and what their topic was. And, I can keep it in my brain for an hour. As opposed to just being.
I write them, I print the agenda. I don't print the rest of it, but the agenda. And I write.
So you're
that,
saying
what
that we will.
and kind of whatever appears to be.
I mean, I just feel like, and we've already kind of gone over this, so I
There's
mean,
no compliment.
that's why I want Mr. Stevens here, because he was the one that was really pushing for that, to make this decision without here is bad. But the
Because he
whole-
was on that council that did all that.
Well, no, they still had regulated public comments. They had 2 sections for public comments. His big thing was, of course, is to really just continue the 3-minute in the different locations.
he wants the public to have access. He wants the Q&A, doesn't he, with the public? He wants to be able to, when they have a question, to be able to have a conversation with them to try and get some resolution.
But either way, you're not supposed to do that. as a
Which should be
public
done on
official.
their own time and then him
Because
bring the problem up here. That's how I was raised, thinking a council commissioners, anybody who does. I'm here to represent the people of mine, and if it's a long-winded thing, tell me and I'll get it on the agenda.
That's true. And Steven said that even last night when he was talking about the Avenue B speeding thing. He said that was an issue that one person has brought up repeatedly to him.
Mhm.
That's why he brought it up here for the resolution.
And
That was-
that's
that was
ideally how it's
outside of-
supposed to work.
And that
Yeah.
was done outside of public comment.
And a lot of people don't want to come up here. Number one, they don't want their name. They don't want people bitching at them. They don't want their neighbors to know they've complained about everything. And that's why I don't usually mention names. And he doesn't, I mean, that's not our place. That's not what they didn't say, would you go up there and tell them I said, no, will you make this known? That's what they want. They just want to know that somebody's talking about it. And that usually hushes them.
And if we didn't bring it up, I'm assuming they'd go to you and say, hey. Well, that's because we handle everything. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Either way,
They
it's not-
usually go to social media or they just.
Yeah,
complain
Facebook.
about it.
It's not advisable under TOMA at all for the council to respond to public comments.
Gotcha.
So no matter where they're making it, we're not supposed to,
may
there's
seem
no
like
question.
more of a discussion, but either way, it's the same thing, just at a different spot on the agenda, and the council's still not allowed to respond.
And I think it's more, and that's where it's public comment, public hearing. But then you have the right to call them up. I don't think that's a public comment when you call them up during the action
Yeah.
items. You're calling them up to have a discussion.
So that just comes down to classroom management, meeting management, where the mayor, if there was 10 people speaking here, and they all wanted to talk during the action item, the mayor could say, instead of allowing 10 people to come up, choose a spokesperson and let us know your ideas to kind of
But
manage.
this was the
time.
whole point of the presenter that I went to at TML. He says, you start doing that, everybody that raises their hand, you're gonna have to call on them, because if not, it's gonna look like you're.
Choosing.
And we've had that
Preferential
over, I mean, even the mayor tries really hard not to not call everyone up.
Or not,
But
but
then
then 3
there's-
minutes.
but when
Catherine's
there's
good
times
about,
That she has.
depending on who it is, which we would do the same thing, You'll go, oh, it's 3 minutes. It's just like, they probably, just leave them alone. They're 85 years old. Give them a set, and that's good. I like that. I mean, that's Alpine.
But ideally, that's not,
I know people, but I mean,
If
you're gonna
we
tell
put-
Johnny and Charlie and Ripley, they can't come up
If-
here and talk. I mean, I'm just not gonna.
But I'm
do
just
it.
saying
Right
that
at you.
the fair treatment across the board.
I know.
It's everyone's given the same opportunities.
So what we currently have and voted on then was 3 minutes overall, but you can either choose to do that at public comment or in front of an action item.
That's not what was voted on. It was just like a general consensus of what the council said, go ahead and do it, even though it's against the ordinance, technically.
It was the compromise to try to get more engagement from the community and
So
from.
you're
But
saying
when-
give them 3 times. At the beginning, before the information items, and before the action item.
That's just one thought process.
And
Or-
how would they know they have those 3 times? And then
You're gonna
be
tell
On
them.
the agenda,
at the
You
very
get on
beginning,
Facebook and tell
and
them.
at the very beginning of every meeting, I would have to go over that, right?
yeah, or the very beginning of each section, but probably it'd be better to, the first section to say, this is the first of 3 public comment sessions. or-
It sounds complex.
I agree. It's, so this is the thing, we keep saying, oh yeah, engagement, I get that engagement.
But we
is
can't
important,
engage with them
But
when they're
being
doing.
fair, it's also having a rule that states this is the only time public comments are made. helps, because that doesn't leave any gray area, it doesn't leave a pick or choose.
And I think that's why the compromise, have you seen an issue with how we're currently,
We
not
haven't
what's
had
here?
many people go during the action item, and when they have, I've not seen that on the comment card, and they end up like being pressured to make their comment at the beginning anyway.
Yeah.
So I think if we just formalize what we're currently practicing, I don't see that being that big of an issue, because we really aren't experiencing it as an issue.
You're saying keep the 3 minutes for the public comment.
I'm saying it's harder to administrate.
And because I think what the mayor and I were saying too is, if the purpose to allow that, what you just said, Megan, was to provide more engagement, we're really not, because
We
if it's.
can't.
Because we can't talk anyway.
Yeah, we can't talk anyway.
But
And
you
so there's
guys
still,
do.
the council member's still gonna wanna call whoever up to ask them questions for that engagement. If that's what the council member is looking for, is
I don't think the
engagement.
council ought to be able to call them up. It needs to be one person,
Yeah,
not all of us decide who can come up.
yeah, cause that could make a very lengthy meeting.
And then they get irritated about that.
So, but then
The
you're
meeting took
also,
so long. Well, yeah, you were up here talking all night.
Yeah,
What's your point? What is it supposed to?
If you don't let them
It's
talk,
supposed-
they bitch. If you let them talk, they bitch.
It's supposed to provide rules, so
Yeah.
everybody is treated the same structure, so the meetings aren't unorganized and people don't think they can talk whenever they can, because that just disrupts the meeting. So it's supposed to provide a mechanism to be able to run an efficient meeting. That is like the.
So you want to run it an efficient meeting, but are you wanting information from them?
But the public can email, they can call, they can write letters. I
I
mean,
know,
there's
but
many ways. You don't
look,
have to do it during the public meeting.
Here's what happens. You come to a meeting, you finally decide to go to the meeting. Come to the meeting, you hear the topic, and you think to yourself, oh my God, I haven't thought about that process. How do I get that process since I'm here? Because,
And these are the ones that make them drag on 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 hours.
well, that's when you have a limitation, so you should be able to ask for a person, like, do you have an in-house? In academia, if someone comes to an academia thing, students, right? And they come in and they hear the topic, they can fill out something on the spot, not ahead of time, on the spot. And then they can simply put it somewhere, then you collect them and you give that person, either you read that or you have that person speak briefly, and then you don't have them go on until you have questions, and then they're available for the questions from you guys.
Well, how about doing 2 public comment sessions to 2 minutes each, one ahead of the action items and one at the very beginning? Then they end up getting 4 minutes, which is a minute more, removing the public comment card, because I think, again,
that's,
for me, it's the problem, is because it's hard to like kind of administrate. But then,
Not a either or, a both.
in response to your comment, there's no way to collect the information, because council usually votes on it that night. So there's no way for them to make a comment and for them to have the discussion and address it after the fact. Because if it's an action item for approval and they're sitting there trying to fill out, well, I have all these added
Ideas.
questions and thoughts and process, they're gonna approve it and it will be after the fact. So the public comments have to come before, so that the council one has more information.
That's good. That's good, Megan, too. I was gonna say, because if it's at the very start, if public comments at the start, it allows us to ruminate. If it's, if we say, I have an idea and this is right before the action item, oh, you completely blew my mind. Now I have to completely reprocess what it is. I would rather take notes about what the action item is and have about 30-40 minutes to think, okay, while we're going through. some
Ignore
other
everything
things."
that's going on, because that's what I sit over here and do.
Well, then
Think
that
about
would go in line kind with Geo, having 2 opportunities, because sometimes the information turns into an action item. Very rarely have we been doing that, because most of our information things have taken us months. But to have even just that 2 opportunities, they're digesting and listening what's going on. And then right before, they can be like, hey, I was against it, but now I'm not, because now that I kind of had some discussion and thought process, we had a 5-minute break and people were talking about it, I understand that.
I have a question then. Theo, you did a lot of research on this, right? Laporte and everywhere
Yes.
else. Does anybody do anything different than 3 minutes
no,
public
the
comment?
standard is 3 minutes. Some cities have like a session where you could comment on anything. And it's like a designated session by itself. But other than that, I've only seen where most public comments are 3 to
And
5
there's a
minutes.
reason for that.
And maybe we don't need the public information card. What if we just had a sign up sheet so that we could call their name?
Well,
And that way you have at least their name and ward record.
you'd have like Abel hand it to the mayor at the beginning.
And say
That's
this
what
is
you want.
everyone. I'm just thinking for documentation wise. It was more to,
To
Then you can
document.
follow up. That's a really great suggestion.
Expert.
I just, again, with making it 2 or anything like that, I think get rid of the card, because it's too much to like kind of.
and people don't fill them out
administer.
correctly. anyway.
That's a really good idea though, because if they do want the engagement, and if council, like Mr. Stevens is wanting that engagement and that conversation with them. Contact information would be good, and our job is to get to the bottom of
follow
the issues and figure it out.
Yeah,
So even if that conversation is not happening here at council, we're running tight meetings in a very simple manner, 3 minutes at the very start, just like everyone else, because it's been market tested. But then we have that, the availability outside of the meeting.
although we may have already voted on it before we can follow up with the person.
But hopefully anything that's an action
Big of
item,
a deal. They
It's a
should have
discussion.
thought about it before,
True.
4 minutes before the meeting.
well, they always,
And most of them do. And if they don't, I bet you next time that they go, you know what? I don't like this. I'm gonna tell somebody right now. And if anything, they call Gio. And Gio says, look, call Judy, call Darren, call Rick.
everything goes through either 1 reading on a resolution or 2 on an ordinance, and it's always starting as a discussion item, like the
True.
government moves slow.
Yeah, isn't that this is quick up here. Point.
So if they're dialed in with anything, which, I mean, I think council's done a great job about trying to. get
To
stuff-
dial everybody in.
to get
Yeah,
it
you
all-
and your newsletter,
Oh, and
just
all the videos,
freaking
yeah.
incredible.
Oh, thank you.
We
But-
also just don't want them to show up and not feel like they have that as well.
I think they want a voice, and I think that contact card, if we're doing our job, would actually do that. If they said, do you want a council member to reach back out to you? What
And
ward are
they
you
can
in?
check yes or
Do you want a
no,
council
or-
member to reach back out to you? I don't know.
And it all goes back to me, why my favorite is the way that we have it, because it's just simple.
I like simple.
The way we have it
The way
right
we
now.
have it is simple, it's clear.
Right now
it's
or
really-
before?
No, before, like without the way we have it set by ordinance where you require the card, you can speak at one section, et
That's
cetera.
it.
That's my favorite because it's just black and white, it's easy, but if we're gonna make it multiple sections, take away the card, I think that would help things.
If you have the card right now, the card is just their name, or is it their ward?
We have it on there where they can speak at either the public comment section or the other one.
But
and
you
check
want it to where it's just public comment, what you're saying.
That's my ideal one, because it makes it easy,
And
black
then-
and white.
In that card, you could actually have contact information so that
Oh,
they know.
I
when they
have
fill
it
out.
on there, but they hardly fill it out.
Yeah, they don't fill it out.
Well, I mean, that's
No, they
telling you
don't.
something.
That they don't, yeah, I mean, maybe we can change the card where they
I
have
can get
that.
y'all copies of the card.
Yeah, and if you want your council member to reach out to you, please provide email, phone number.
Because if they are putting in the work to show up and talk to us, then that's half the battle. If they are interested.
So if we leave public comments to just that one section, but Councilmember Stevens wants back and forth, then he can but then that gets into what happens if 100 people want to come up when he wants to back and
It goes
forth.
back to the efficiency, I think,
Yeah,
and how hard is it to administer whatever you're setting up?
I think that's why the market test says 3 minutes public comment, because a lot of people have probably dealt with a lot of issues and they
Can
said
you
this is the
imagine a
best way to
big
deal with
town?
it.
Absolutely. They're in there till 1 or 2 in the morning, and that's a normal meeting.
We're gonna need a pay raise if that happens. Cut city charter? No kidding.
And why is this continued on back? See, I hate stuff that do that.
Because it has the rule.
I know.
So we probably just need, can we simplify this some? Have the name, phone
Sure.
number and email address,
Can do whatever.
and then have a little thing for them to check if they want a council member to reach out to them.
I like that.
Okay.
And then just what agenda item are you,
And a lot of people don't fill that out right either.
just
So-
which item on the agenda?
Well,
is
it's
to
number
get
one,
rid
it's
of
so
it?
busy. If you handed this to me.
Yeah, I
my name,
know.
Throw it up.
I think, to be honest, this is not useful. This is
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah, I think just the name, the ward, email, telephone, do you want a council member to reach out to you?
Yeah.
And then which agenda item? period.
Are you gonna be making the comments on? Is
Yeah.
that what you're, so.
Yeah,
Do you even care about that?
we do because they have to speak only on an agenda item.
Yeah, and then not only that, but for the minutes, usually I put regarding, resolution.
Yeah. Cause they can't come up and say, hey, I wanna build a tunnel on 118 going under the railroad track or.
Well,
you know,
here's a
Hey,
point.
you need to
Shelley,
increase
Midland-
Medicare
Midland
benefits.
High, school board meeting last night. Two preachers drove from Oklahoma, and in the 3-minute comment said, y'all have a book in your library. Here, we're gonna quote some of it. And it was like pornography. They had to escort these preachers out. And it had nothing to do with anything. And so they had not filled out the card right. They weren't even from Midland. So that we don't need that. They didn't need that.
Yeah.
Not that that's happens all the time, but I'm telling you, this was all put into place because I sat through meetings where people just jumped up in the middle of our discussion. Well, I want to say that, okay, and and it made you want to vote against them for their little outbursts and tearing up paper and throwing it in the air. And
That was,
yeah, I know exactly who it was.
Yeah.
And I understand they're frustrated, but this is and people coming up to just walking up here. I was threatened with guns in the very beginning, and I didn't want somebody just walking up here. So
It's a
that should
government
not be
meeting.
allowed.
And what other level of government do you see people getting up whenever they want to make comments, however they want? You have to follow a process. you
you've
have
got
to
to
follow
have
rules,
it. Yeah,
in whatever, however
We
it's
have
said.
to
And
be
I think
safe up here.
honestly, local government provides those opportunities much more than the higher.
Yes.
levels.
we have Daryl now, and Daryl and his guys, they're good. We didn't have Daryl when I started.
Well, I think too,
Yeah.
that that's very important what Lori said about contacting them back because they're here to say something. And if we take the next step to get in touch.
I'll call them. I call everybody back. Either call them back. The only ones I haven't called or responded to an email is Mr. Axelrod.
Yeah.
Not doing it.
Mhm.
And the one I sent to y'all, who had said something about Christmas. What was it? It was some odd. I don't know what it
Merry
was.
Christmas.
And I thought, I'm not responding, but everybody else.
Yeah.
Even when they're ugly, what are you gonna do about my gas bill? Well, I'm not gonna do anything about it, but I'll talk to you about it. And I responded but
And this was structured based on the ordinance of what was passed, and it was supposed to even give the audience an opportunity to register their support or their opposition of an item if they didn't want to speak,
Yeah.
so that could still be recorded
know.
and considered. So, I mean, we can change it however y'all want
I
to.
think
You can set
simplify it.
whatever rules you, whatever y'all
Yeah.
want to,
too
but
many boxes. People can't handle the boxes.
I think
We-
name, ward,
That's
phone
right.
number,
I mean,
email
that looks
address.
busy to a lot of people. A
Well,
lot
to
of
me,
people
that's the easiest thing is the sign up sheet. I
Yep.
put my name,
Your
And
ward,
they go pick it up.
email, phone
Meeting.
number,
and then.
which item
when
you're
the
speaking
meeting
on.
Starts,
We just give it
people
to
can
you and-
bring it up to the mayor.
And then also a column for, do you want your council member to reach out to you? So that you can have that
sign.
back and forth. That Councilmember Stevens is wanting, because if during public
And let
comments,
it
we
call.
can't do back and forth, yeah,
They can call.
that's right. So do you want your council member to reach
I
back
mean,
out?
they're
to you?
obviously, most of them are registered voters. They have Geo has that information.
And then the council person can share that information with council.
Mhm.
I mean, that's what we do when we put discussion items on.
Yeah,
That's how it's supposed to be. That's why we have the information and the discussion. I put all kinds of junk on them. I always have.
I was gonna say, that's one thing with TML, like that topic that Gio went and saw ended up at TML because it was important for some people, and that guy is an expert to even be brought over there for it, so.
so just the one public comment place, that's where you speak, period.
It just makes it the easiest. In my opinion, but it's completely up to y'all if y'all want
I-
to.
And I mean, we're not dumb, we're adults, we can remember.
We're not.
We're not, we can remember what they've
Okay.
said, even if it was an hour ago, and if we can't,
I said I
That's
was
what
leaving
this
at
is for.
3:30. Does that tell you anything?
I mean, that's where I lie too. I think it's important to get the other council members things because we did vote or we didn't vote, but we did discuss and came to an agreement on the opposite of that. Even though I would prefer what we're talking about right now.
At other levels of government, you can't even go and make comments, or there's like a really lengthy process, during the hearings, Um,
And the ones that can't know that, so what do? Get a hold of their council member. They get a hold of them and say, look, I don't have time to come to the meeting. I don't know what to say. Here, this is my problem. And that you get people, and that's how it's supposed to be. I'm not saying we shouldn't let them talk.
Well, I think we're ready, aren't we? I think we
I'm
come to
fixing
an
to
agreement.
leave.
We came to an agreement.
Did
Just-
we?
Did we?
I don't know.
Okay, so let me summarize what I think the agreement is. That we're only gonna have public comments where we used to have it, period. That's when you speak. And it's gonna be a sign-up sheet where you put your name, your
No more of the
ward,
comment
email.
cards.
Yeah,
But you have to sign up in order to make the comment. You have to sign. in the
yes,
sheet.
yes,
And
and
it has
then we
be
need
by
to know, we need,
5:25 or just so they can get you the list, or 5:30,
well, that's what I'm saying, hey, da, 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 so by 5,
5:30, because it makes it easier because Abel can bring it up. to you.
yeah, while I'm doing that, sure. Yeah, and they need to check that box if they want their council member to talk to them. And then that way we know that we need to have the back and forth discussion. And then maybe the council member will contact them anyway, period.
So to Megan's question, she had wondered, I would take that being as duties of the presiding officer. The presiding officer of the council shall be the mayor. The presiding officer shall preserve strict order and decorum at all regular and special meetings of the council. He, she shall state every question coming before the council, announce decisions, et cetera, et cetera. And then it goes on to say, all rulings by the presiding officer are subject to an appeal to the city council, in which case, so
Well, then
since the
council
mayor runs
can't
the
call
meeting.
people.
No,
Well, no, 'cause that's what
No.
you were talking, you guys
Yeah.
were talking about. So
Yeah.
council can't call people up. So then I don't think we should have it where people can be called up, period.
yeah, no,
It makes it.
yeah, no, because
then
like you
it's
said,
taken out.
5 people raised their hand and we only called 2 up, and they think there's favoritism, so nobody.
It wouldn't really be taking it out. That's just kind of a broad statement about the presiding officer running the meeting. It'd be more like adding it in that that's not allowed, I think.
Yeah, and we need to make sure everybody understands it's not allowed.
So the consensus is to keep it the way it is. Except with the comment card being next
No-
and then going.
No
with
comment card,
A
sign
sign
up
sheet.
And just that one time, you can't talk before the action item or the discussion item,
Just public comment
just public comments.
or public hearings, right? Public
Public
comment.
Well,
hearings
public
is
here is
its
a
own.
totally different animal. Yeah,
Well, that was fun. We talked 30 minutes to tell people they couldn't talk. I'm sorry.
that's the way it used to be. I know we're gonna have, yeah, anyway. All right, where are we at? We have what we need?
I don't know, but talk fast because I'm fixing to leave. How much is left? I thought that we just talked about 2318.
So that outlines all of the public comment.
Is that
I
audience
had more in
participation?
that section.
Well, no, he wanted to do number, was it 5?
Well, I have one on 3 as well.
Okay, 3.
One
City
question-
council members shall not have discussions during the public comment and public hearing portions of the agenda, nor take any action thereon other than to refer the item to city staff for research or possible future action.
My amendment, because me and you discussed this and then they approved it preliminarily on the order of business, is to clarify that city staff may respond to public comments only to explain policy or to make factual statements. And to quote it specifically how we added it in the order of business, it says, city staff may ask commenters clarifying questions, respond with facts, and explain policy.
And does that fit state law?
Perfect. I
It
like
does
it.
as long
Do
as
it.
it's city staff,
Okay,
but not the county.
that's fine.
So I think sometimes, and I do remember us talking about it, some of the comments we all kind of sit there like, what?
Uh-huh.
But that allows us more of the opportunity to say, could you please clarify? Or what exactly are you referencing within the agenda, or
Right.
what is your concern?
So that allows you and Geo to speak as well to clarify. Beautiful.
Okay, that was my only thing for that one.
And then you have the other one.
So on number 5, I had written that in and I didn't really, I feel like think it through and no one really kind of caught the way that it reads. But essentially it said that persons may present printed material to be included in the council agenda packets 1 week prior to a meeting. persons may present printed material to the city secretary to distribute to the council during a meeting subject to the same deadline. I just don't think that's a
That's-
great idea.
Yeah,
It
that
just-
sentence doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it just needs to match how we do our packets.
So
Yeah.
I have written here, it is the intention of the city council to hold meetings in a professional, organized and structured manner. Accordingly, it is prohibited for printed or other material to be passed out during meetings. Residents are welcome to email material to the council at any time. Residents may also deliver materials to be distributed to council members at city hall during normal business hours. Because again, I just don't see a need. I think it's unprofessional for people to be able to come in here and pass things out. And it's
Yeah,
not
at the beginning of a
structured
meeting.
at any time during the meeting.
Yeah.
So to have that against the rules and then, just clarify,
But if it's an information and discussion item, they need to meet the same deadlines
Yes.
for packet, so that needs to be in there as well.
Especially if we change that.
Yeah, what is the deadline for packets now? I don't even remember.
13 days ahead of the meeting. So basically put in here, but see, and again, the way that it was written made it sound like, okay, I can bring whatever I want as long as it's by.
Exactly how it's saying.
Yeah, yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Get the stuff to you guys early now.
Yeah, I know.
So adding a provision that says. Well, see, and then it opens up more, if a resident is on the agenda. Which, I have that clarified as well, that only the council can add a resident to the agenda, right? Because we didn't have it set by ordinance previously, it was just a policy to make it fair, right? Do you want it to, in this section to say, okay. Residents who are added to the agenda by a council member must meet the same deadlines as
Yeah,
Yeah,
stated in section
Yeah.
yada yada?
So everything's the same.
yeah, that way it's
It
not
would be
confusing.
Then when somebody asks us, we don't have to think. We say 13 days ahead.
Yeah. Is that calendar days or work days?
Just, days.
Just
Straight
days.
days.
Okay.
Calendar.
straight days, I love that.
It worked in my head.
Are we done? Are y'all done?
Mm,
We have one more section, 2318,
No,
Page,
no.
It should just take about 30-40 minutes.
or an hour or two. No.
So addressing the city council,
I think that was our,
Minutes. I was only saying 30 loud.
I think that was our longest section. We just went through.
Well,
We just talked
and
about
it-
this one.
it matches with this as well. So section A, public comments. Before each meeting of city council, the city secretary shall make citizen comment forms available on which any city taxpayer resident may sign his or her name, ward, district, and indicate the agenda item on which he or she wishes to speak. Members of the public that live outside of the city limits may make comments at the discretion of the presiding officer if time permits. Only public comments regarding agenda items will be allowed. Individuals must be physically present to address the city council. Comments by proxy are not allowed. So that just needs to be updated. There's not the public.
So just the sign-in sheet, there's not a need for the public comment, but you have to sign the sign-in sheet.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Uh-huh.
So individuals may address the council by oral communication by completing all requested information on the citizen comment form and placing it at the city secretary's desk. Of course, that would all.
That would be stretched out, yeah, because Abel will just grab it.
And I think it should just say designated employee, because if Abel's not here,
True.
Right.
Well, yeah, we don't want to put his name in there.
each
Yeah.
person addressing the council. Each person addressing the council shall
He always
step up
has
to
to
the
be, yeah.
podium, shall give his or her name and ward or district for the record, and unless further time is granted by the council, shall limit his or her address to 3 minutes. Unused public comment time may not be designated or yielded to other attendees. All
It's like
remarks
giving
shall
sick
be,
leave.
all remarks shall be addressed to the council as a body and not to any one member thereof. No person other than council and the person having the floor shall be permitted to enter into any discussion, either directly or through a member of the council, without the permission of the presiding officer. No question shall be asked to the council person except through the presiding officer. Any such question shall be referred by city council to the city manager for further handling.
Okay, on number 2, I think it says unless further time is granted by the council, it should say presiding officer.
All
Oh,
right.
yeah, second line,
Uh-huh.
middle.
And why are we talking about, let's see, discussion?
A person other. than-
Yeah, we're not gonna enter any
Having
kind of
the floor
discussion
should be
because it's
permitted
not
to enter.
allowed.
Yeah,
So let's cross that out. There's no
No
discussion.
person other. council. We'll Just.
We could just
all
say there's
of
no
them.
discussion allowed or whatever
that
by
whole
state law.
sentence. Just that whole sentence, get rid of it. How's that sound?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then even the presiding officer can't ask a question. Cause it says no question shall be asked to a council person.
We can get rid of that as well.
Yeah. Cause it should, just somewhere in there, we should say that state law prohibits us from exchanging information or answering questions or
So
asking
pretty much
questions.
everything.
But you're pretty good about saying that
From
every time.
no
Yeah.
person other than the
Remember,
council.
All the way down.
Yeah, always say that.
And then you said, Megan, any one member, it's on line 4 about the middle there, addressed to the council as a body and not to any member thereof. Should that be any one member or just any member? Line 4 down on number 2,
It
sorry.
could just read, all remarks shall be addressed to the council as a body, and leave it at that.
Yeah,
That works.
So remove and not to any member thereof.
So let's. All right,
So pretty much from there, all the way down is gonna come out.
okay.
Persons wishing to address the council on more than one agenda item or topic in a single meeting must speak on all such agenda items or topics during their 3-minute presentation. Additional time is not given for additional items. However, emailing, writing, calling, or visiting
we
with
go,
council
Judy.
members
I know.
outside of meetings is of course unlimited. This requirement does not
That's
restrict
all.
anyone from also speaking at any public hearing. The additional information. So then public hearings provide municipal residents and affected parties an opportunity to be heard, typically on certain land use items. Final ordinance readings, the annual adoption of the municipal budget, and the annual adoption of the tax rate. There is not a form or sign up requirement for public hearings at city council meetings. Only comments regarding a public hearing agenda item may be made during the public hearing portion of the meeting. Each person that wishes to address the council during the public hearing portion of the meeting must be in attendance physically and shall raise their hand to notify the presiding officer that they would like to speak. Once acknowledged by the presiding officer, the person shall step up to the podium and shall give his or her name or district for the record. Unless further time is granted by the presiding officer, the person addressing the council shall limit his or her address to 3 minutes. Individuals must be physically present to address the city council. Comments by proxy are not allowed. All remarks shall be addressed to the council as a body and not to any member thereof. No person
Should
other
it
than
read
the
like the other
council
one?
and the person having the floor shall be permitted to enter into any
Okay.
discussion, so we can just take out everything below that.
Yes.
So it's just, all remarks shall be addressed to the council as a body, period, and then everything else after that is
Removed.
removed.
yeah.
One last question on the top part there, A, number 1, when it says not later than 5 minutes before commencement of the meeting, what did y'all agree on?
Yeah.
So it'll say 5:30. I had a couple of things about the ordinance in general that aren't cleared up. So
Okay,
firstly, the report items, we haven't gotten anywhere on that. Do we have to list them? Or do we leave it open where the mayor and the city manager could provide a report to the council, but there's no discussion that could be had on those items? We didn't clarify.
No, we didn't.
I mean, I personally like the flexibility of you all being able to talk about whatever comes up,
But then there's no discussion.
but then the council can't discuss that.
so they
It's not
can't ask
on the
Megan, which is what's happening now.
But I'm listing my stuff.
agenda. Right
But
now,
you're what?
I list my stuff.
she lists her items, so if
But-
they're listed, they can have that discussion, but if they're not listed, then no one can comment, you can't start a discussion about those items. But
I
there
know,
are,
I'm really
but see,
sorry.
that would make, with the new deadline, that means that Megan would have to have her report items by 13 days in advance.
Which is a lot.
And if something comes up, that means that she can't talk about it.
Mhm. So it's.
Same thing
removing-
with me, I
Yeah.
can't say, hey, there's a hospital district meeting tomorrow when I just found out about it Monday.
That would actually fall under the new
The
section.
community interest items.
You would, you and every council member would be able to say stuff like that. And that would be acceptable under TOMA and under the new section that y'all approved.
Which is why we added that section, so that for people who wanna say, hey, there's a fish fry, hey, there's a memorial service, hey, we've got Earth Day coming up, hey.
Mm,
So, I mean, It's up to you all, but I personally again am in favor of just letting y'all not have the items, letting y'all report on what you need to report, and that it's only an oral report, no discussion. But that's,
I kind of agree with that too, because
I
then
agree.
we could discuss afterwards.
Yeah,
Councilor Stokes,
Oh, I was in the bathroom. What were y'all thinking?
about reports with Megan and the mayor. So basically, if they do not list those report items as agenda items, then they can provide an oral report, but the council can't have a discussion about it. You'd have to actually list the items you're going to be talking about for council to be able to have that discussion. But with the new deadline, it would make it to where Megan and the mayor would have to have their items listed 13 days in advance. So it doesn't allow them to provide the most up-to-date information in their reports. So are you okay with them not
Yes.
listing it
Yes.
in their report?
Yes.
No discussion can take place during their reports. then.
Right.
Is
So
that
you
okay?
can ask questions.
Well, you know, I'll probably ask them anyway, but I won't be here. I'll be sitting out there figuring out, I'm gonna practice at my house, my 3-minute comments. My kids used to do, when they had to time stuff, they'd turn on the microwave. That microwave might be hitting 3, go.
My only concern is the financial reports. You guys have all had questions on those, and that will come to a stop.
Because we won't,
Well, why not do those under the, instead of your city manager report? do it
Discussion
under
item.
Staff presentation.
Because we're not doing staff presentation.
Well, there's a reporting section,
Yeah, there's.
report and presentations.
or it
So
could be
you
under a
could have-
discussion item, right?
You could have, your financial reports under the reports and presentation section and not under the city manager report. And the city manager report could be more for, you know, stuff that's come up, and then you can add your other items under the reports section. I'm guessing, I'm thinking,
or what the mayor just said, could that not be a discussion item?
or.
I can, I like to try to get all my stuff,
We like for you to put it all in one
yeah,
place.
so that I'm not all.
We don't have to hear you all.
Well, we have a whole reports and presentation section, which was meant to be like Dawn, the library, the crisis, center,
Yeah.
everybody who has
And
reports.
what,
and
did
stuff.
somebody tell him he had 6 minutes?
Don's
No,
done
but that was
great.
my next question.
Yeah, we need to keep that.
Did warn him.
Yeah.
He's done great.
He did great last night too.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
I mean, it
much
was-
better.
Yeah, it wasn't much shorter. but I
Oh,
did tell
first
him
time I
to
thought I was gonna take a little nap.
be mindful of the time.
Oh, he made it 6 minutes, I think. It was
Good.
exactly 6 minutes.
Would you have told him when the 6 minutes were up?
I would have let it go off and. let you
Yeah,
do
and
it.
let me figure it out. Good. Good, yes, I
And then
appreciate
you
you
could
doing
play
that.
favorites with the Don.
Yeah. If it had
So
gone off,
are
I'd
we
been like,
limiting
if it-
information discussion to 6 minutes as well?
Well, on the proposed agenda that we presented last time, I had on, as just an idea, and it's been on there forever. The mayor and city manager reports limited to 10 minutes each, and every other item is limited to 6 with the additional 4. And I did receive clarification on the from the council at one of our discussions at that, y'all would like to proceed with that, the 6 minutes for the presentations, an additional 4 by the mayor.
Yeah.
And
Right.
then at the discretion of the city council, like they could overrule the mayor if they really want.
For a discussion item or,
To go over that 10 minutes.
okay,
You
yeah,
know what I'm saying?
yeah.
But what I did not receive any clarification on, even though it was presented the whole time, is
But
that
you've been limiting yourself to 6. and
Yeah.
It's enough. I
Uh-huh.
mean, you've had enough time to,
Uh-huh,
do you feel like you've had enough time?
absolutely.
Okay.
I think I probably finish it within 3 most of the time, don't I?
I just figured 10 up to 10 in case the city
Just
manager had a
okay.
lot of.
Yeah,
stuff
sure,
to
yeah.
talk about. But do you want to add those, or do you want to change the time frame? What are you thinking about? Those are questions I had as well.
Well, I'm only asking because last night the information discussion items were well over.
But those are, yeah, and that's another thing. It's like, do we have every single thing, the 6 minutes?
I don't know about information and discussion
uh,
because the short-term
Yeah,
rental
right.
probably took 45 minutes.
Yeah, I agree.
But
I don't know if we should
I-
limit
I
that
don't know. I agree.
I think it should just be the presiding officer's job to,
to try to
Try
keep
to-
going like I did last night. That's why I was like, okay, so what was your point for putting this on?
Yeah, no.
Parking, okay, let's just focus on the parking,
Yes.
you know, because we
know.
were getting way out in the
I know.
weeds
I
on
know.
all the
so
stuff.
so the 6 minute, I already knew about that. Y'all want that with the.
I think it
additional
should
4
be
by the
6
mayor.
minutes,
Yeah.
you know. The problem is, in the 45 minutes we talked, we didn't accomplish anything that we couldn't have accomplished in the first 6 minutes.
And are y'all wanting to do the 10 for the mayor and the city manager report,
I
or?
will be here. I think her and Megan are both policing themselves.
Yeah.
And I know
So
that
do you
doesn't
not
roll
want-
over to other people, but these two are policing
Do you not want
themselves.
a limit on those?
No, let's keep the limit,
I like the limit.
10 minutes?
max, yeah.
6 and 4, I like that.
6 and then with an additional 4 at,
Well, that's just for every other thing. I'm talking about the report section.
I think the timer should go off at 6 minutes so that we're
For everything,
cognizant,
period.
yes. And then, of course, I would give Megan another 4.
So
Make her
executive reports, that's yours and hers.
We don't
with
want to
the
hear that
minutes.
other part.
Yeah, 6 minutes with an additional 4 allowed by.
You
the
gotta go
presiding
over the
officer.
29 priorities in 10 minutes.
But she could put it under.
It's priority.
But then I- But if
Yeah,
that's
that
the
was
point,
the top
then I will
priority.
never have a
Didn't
city
see my
manager.
paper. See, they didn't
There's
include
even
mine.
Yeah.
I wasn't even in her top priorities.
So-
Kind of hurt my feelings, so she gets it now. I added a whole line.
Yep,
Judy.
you came out to like a 0 point.
I know.
Okay,
Okay, so
so-
6 minutes with an additional 4 on y'all's reports as well.
Right, yeah, so when the timer goes off at 6 minutes, it just kind of jars us that, hey, we've got 4 minutes left. And then if it's something that's lengthy, then Megan won't have a report that time. It'll be in a discussion item or something.
And that does, I mean, that kind of goes with the philosophy of it, where if it is something that's going to take a lot of discussion and you want a lot of council feedback, should be a discussion item where that's the arena for that discussion and feedback.
Okay.
Otherwise, if you just want to give us bullet points and we can't discuss or ask questions, then that's just the report. And you may never have anything in reports. I don't know. We'll see. This is an experiment.
And I was gonna say, when looking at that, from whether you want engagement or the reports, as a council person, to me, 13 days, I don't wanna know what happened 2 weeks ago. I wanna know what happened yesterday, so that I think the temporal nature of it is more important than the engagement of the two-way conversation.
So that's gonna be the hardest part is I can't tell you if it needs to be a discussion item, if it happened 3 days ago, because I would have already had to have had the agenda prepared 10 days prior. So if something comes up, the only way I can talk about it is with the city manager report. You can't discuss it. It could be something that
don't.
we need to have a discussion
don't.
on, but we can't.
But that happens where,
We
Yeah,
don't.
pretty much.
in the report, you said.
Yeah,
it
it's
should
only
be-
made
it
by
should be a
research.
discussion
If
item.
you're
Yeah.
okay with me and Darren
Unless there's a.
answering any of it.
Fully trust y'all's
Okay.
decision.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry, what was that last section?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
What last second?
I'm gonna go
Yep,
feed
they
my
were
dogs,
talking about-
watch the rest of my.
Oh, yeah, so
Okay.
I just
They
want
go
to
to
know what
church,
the consensus
pray
is,
for
if we need to make.
Thank you,
it.
Judy.
To what? To what part?
Well, y'all were just discussing.
So we, Megan.
We're
and I-
gonna have to see how it works. There's no way to know whether
Yeah,
it's gonna work for me for CM or
Can
report.
you make it yourself a special thing since you're an exception? If something comes up in the city, you shouldn't have to do that 13-day. That's unrealistic.
That's what got us in trouble and why we're here today, because I thought there was an exception, he thought there wasn't an exception, and it
It's-
created an issue.
We've extended those deadlines for very specific reasons, and that's including to give my office more time to proofread and to make the packets, to give the public more time to review, and to give the council more time to
But
review.
you're forcing her to make a decision on her own without any counsel, which is what the council's supposed to be, if she has to hit that deadline. I mean, tomorrow something big could happen and that she really wants feedback. and
She can email the council and solicit responses from the council by email. I think she can have conversations with them to get an idea of what they want.
It's tough.
You don't have to do it during a public meeting.
Well, the reason why we do it during a public meeting is because I usually get a better response. I don't get a response from email.
I
Actually,
just
get
think you
very
have
little
to have an
response from email.
exception. You should make an exception rule.
Well,
There
It's
is-
We have
just
to
a
try
gray
it.
area.
Yeah, we just have to
We-
try
We've
it.
had, and like, there's the exceptions, and then I made exceptions, and it's just, it opens it up to being like a why this time and not that time.
And Gio,
It's better to have it set by,
we put rare and exceeding circumstances, didn't
and
we?
we took that out
Oh,
because of
yeah.
that.
there's no exceptions, so you'll either know or you won't.
I thought we left that in.
It's,
We took it out.
yeah, we all took it out because we all agreed.
Well, then you can't complain when she has to make a decision. You feel like it's not her, who have to say, you can't complain, it's the city manager. It's as simple as that. You can't both be complaining about the city manager criteria and not give her an opportunity to bring it stuff. And her have to wait 2 weeks. I
There's
mean,
just a lot of structure under TOMA and other, that goes into planning these meetings. And, we've had full discussions about this before, and that's really not what's in question right now. What's in question right now is, whether the reports, because we all agreed, including Megan, including the council, it's already been agreed that that's the deadline, and everybody was okay with that.
And we did look at other cities.
Yeah. There's been a lot of discussion there, but really what is coming up now is whether or not the report items need to be listed, and then the time frame.
And that's really the big thing. That's where if we don't list them, there's no discussion. But then if I do list them, I can't discuss anything outside of what's on there.
And the good news is if something doesn't work, we change it, exactly like we're doing now.
Yeah. So let's say something came up and it was 2 days before the council meeting. And so you put it in your report because it can't have any discussion. Could you then ask when you're done telling us about that for the council to respond to you by email?
I've done that and I don't get response from most of people.
That's on them.
Yeah.
So,
I respond to you.
so that's where it's easy to have the discussion and get everyone who's here.
And if y'all want to revisit the deadlines, we can certainly do that. I thought it was an issue.
And I was just asking Geos if there was like a compromise, like if we could list some and not list some. Items that are listed can be discussed, items not listed can't be discussed, like if we couldn't do.
Well, I mean. of
I don't know if
course.
we can do that.
I would think, yeah, because we asked our attorneys, under TOMA, is it acceptable to have the report items without listing them and just for them to provide an oral report? They said, under TOMA, you have to list them if you want to have a discussion. If you make it an oral report only for,
You don't
where
have
they
to
can-
list it.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, I would think you could. You could list things that we would just have to make sure council's clear that the items listed we can discuss with you, the items not listed we cannot. But we can always have a conversation by email if it's important to an individual council member.
Could you have city manager comment, and comment is treated like public comment where there's no engagement between you and council, and then city manager reports where those are enumerated?
No, that wouldn't really.
If anything, I think what she was saying about having a blurb in there that items or the
Items
reports are
listed.
discussion only unless specifically listed on.
Right.
I think that.
I think it would work.
It could go both ways.
And we may be back in another month or two changing this.
I agree, and I just wanted to double check, are y'all good with the deadlines? Because everybody was in agreement about the deadlines prior. And I made a whole list, a tentative schedule and things. of
Yeah,
that
so
nature.
for like April 2nd's deadline, it would have been today.
And I presented a tentative schedule in the packet and stuff, so I just wanted to be sure we're good there, right?
I think we're gonna find out.
Yeah, I think we'll give it a try and we'll see.
I think, and a
It's,
lot of it-
just the two of us, we shouldn't override what
It's
council,
already been,
yeah, what council has decided, because we're missing now 1, 2, 3, 4 members. Yeah,
and
Well, and then in May, it could all change because we have all.
that's
the-
true.
that's true. Yeah,
And at some point, theoretically, city civic clerk will be a thing. I mean, and that's gonna change the way the manner that we engage with the agenda and everything else like that. So a lot of moving pieces.
okay, so what else did you need clarification on?
that's really about it. I just wanted to tie up those loose ends before we started writing the draft ordinance.
So we're not putting a time limit on discussion items. I'll monitor that.
Okay.
We are putting a time limit, 6 minutes with an additional 4,
For the reports.
right, and for presentations like Dawn's and stuff like that.
That's under.
Good, okay. Mhm.
I think that's it. I mean, we did implement the new ordinance policy in there and I've sent it to y'all. I've not received any feedback that, whether or not,
What ordinance policy?
basically, just the steps.
There's only one more section that we'll include for review before final first reading. Conflict of interest. So we would like to add a conflict of interest section to outline really,
On this?
Yes.
And we have to fill out a form if we have conflict.
Well, it would provide the guidelines for filling out the form, what constitutes a conflict, the appearance of a conflict, because we have had that issue. And I do foresee we will continue to have that issue because we do
Yeah.
have,
It would solidify by ordinance.
Because it's human nature.
You remember whenever it was a question and Skyway Gardens was saying, oh. by
Well, she can
access law,"
talk
exactly.
because,
This would clarify that it, by ordinance, that the council member would be expected to abstain because of the appearance of the fight.
Yeah,
and
I
I know
agree.
like Darren with the school district, Rick Stevens does own 2 airport hangars. So there is a slight conflict with making decisions about the airport. I think we need to look at and provide clear guidelines for the council as a whole, and then tie it back into our boards and commissions as well.
yeah,
But yeah, other than that, I mean, the ordinance policy has been in there for quite some time as well. And I think we're good to it.
And that's,
what did you send out to us that you wanted feedback on and nobody replied?
well, actually, it started with me and I sent out the email with, for ordinances moving forward, we would send them out a week in advance to give you a week to look at it, and then we give it to our attorneys to look at it. He prolonged the process a little bit more so that our attorneys have the time as well. But basically, we say before an ordinance gets passed, it, you know, it's information discussion, a draft is created, it's presented to you guys to review. Our attorneys also review it before it becomes a first reading.
I agree with that.
Yeah, it's just a whole policy that's been.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just a memo before, an email. Now it's an actual in the ordinance so that everyone knows
And
that.
it's been in the.
Okay,
You can't tell us to write an ordinance for April 2nd.
right. Well, damn it.
And because we also have boards and commissions that look over some of them, there's different, so we want to make sure everyone had enough time.
And that's why we had the boards and commissions,
Only the ones that are really easy, like the repealing of the curfew for juveniles.
because that's a state thing. We have
And
no
that would be like,
choice.
so that was easy, it's just a simple repeal, but ones where we're making bigger changes, you have procedures in.
And I mean, all of these things aren't irresolvable, like the 2-week deadline or whatever else like that. If that's something that's a labor issue, you know, I mean, then that's something that council needs to solve for you. Like if you're doing too much work and you have a compressed timeline where you can only be 3 days in advance of certain projects, we need to buy you more time. Whatever it is, you know.
We'll remember the presenter from PML, that same one I keep referring to. He recommended the council have the packets a minimum of 7 days in advance. So we added that in because everyone agreed. On top of that, we are extending the time frame that residents, because we received resident feedback that 24 hours isn't enough time. Now they're gonna have that Friday before the meeting, or I believe, I have to double check. but
It is,
it's gonna
so
get-
you guys have time,
Residents
residents
time.
have time,
We
and
have
then
to-
have discussion.
That's to look at the council member
And that's the
packet, yeah.
deadlines for the packets, when they're gonna be out, how much time we have to assemble
So we
it.
had to make sure the ordinance is.
I mean, my office is only getting like a day more. You know, a lot of those changes work to benefit the council, but
Right.
And we're hoping that the software will eliminate a lot of the extra work because it will be a matter of just kind of clicking and putting.
Yeah, I hope so. And that's what software's supposed to do. I mean, I hope so.
Yeah.
You get your software.
We signed the agreement in
When we get
October, and we're still in the
implementation.
implementation stage. So I think June, maybe we'll use it for the
Yeah,
first time.
definitely. I would hope a little sooner, really. May would be nice, but it's gonna be kind of crazy to me. So.
Yeah, we don't know what's gonna happen in April or May.
Yeah. Then we need to look.
That's
at
why we
utility
wanted to get the
software.
order of procedure or the orders for the agenda. So that we could get the software to get that structured. And we weren't having to do that as well. So we're trying to get them to do all the back end stuff first.
And we won't get the new agenda design order of business until we okay the ordinance. So we're still over a month out on that. Okay, cool.
Well, when do you expect first reading to be?
So May is when we start.
So the first meeting in May, we could potentially be approved.
Because we'll have to go over all of the new changes and information and discussion.
At the next meeting.
And then the second meeting in May, we'll have the new members.
Oh, wow.
But it'll be the first meeting of May, that will be the second and final meeting. So the second meeting in April is the first reading, the first meeting in May would be the second.
So they'll be starting with the new
one.
Better Business one.
Well, that's good. Okay,
We'll all
so
learn
they
together.
won't have to change midstream. Yeah,
Then the new people can change everything.
yeah,
It has happened.
Propose with.
yes.
It's happened.
Yes,
Are we
Okay.
good?
we're good. Y'all ready?
Yes.
Done.